Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome to this channel. My name is Joanna. If this is your first time joining me, thank you so much for being here. My ultimate purpose and desire and intention is to help you understand your own needs, your own emotional needs. That's because when we understand our own emotional needs, there's a certain level of emotional maturity that happens. And a mature individual, an emotionally mature individual, is an individual that feels strong within him or herself, emotionally speaking. And when we feel emotionally strong, we are less likely to depend on outside to make us feel emotionally strong. And the reason for that is, or it's preferable that we feel strong rather than depending on outside, is because we can't control the outside. So if we make something responsible for our emotional strength and it's something we can control, then it doesn't really work very well, does it? So there's a certain level of maturity that happens on an emotional level when we begin to truly understand our deepest emotional needs. And those are generally tied to what I call your inner child. So if you are interested in learning more about yourself, in gaining a certain new level of perspective that would allow you to embody a more emotionally strong self, then I hope you stick around and I hope you like what you hear. Anything that comes through me is information, is a certain level of perspective. I am not asking you to agree with anything that you hear, but I'm encouraging you just to be open. Just to be open to whatever wants to come through to you, because if you are here listening to this energy, then you are drawing unconsciously this specific energy in order to communicate with you something about what you need or what you want. So just be open. If something doesn't make sense to you, don't necessarily dismiss it as BS. Just kind of muse about it. Could this be true for me? Because I, as Joanna, one of my greatest joys is to open things up and help people see what's inside of them, which is mostly on an unconscious level. And I just happen to have a gift of being able to see what's on the unconscious level with help of my team. So if you like what you hear, I would love for you to share this channel, to share this content. Myself and my team would be very grateful for you doing that if you so wish, because it helps to expose more people to this material. And the more people are exposed to this information, the more chance we have to become stronger, emotionally much stronger individuals. And when we are feeling emotionally stronger, well, it just makes for a whole bunch of better people and better world in the end. So I would love for you to do that. If you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. Without you, I wouldn't do this. And I always say, I love what I do. When I connect with the higher frequency, it's home. It's like, oh, just leave me there. I don't even have to talk. But the purpose is to share information. So thank you so much for being here. Thank you for subscribing. Thank you for liking. Thank you for commenting. Your comments tell me a lot in terms of where you're at with yourself. So it helps me to bring in certain content because it shows me what you need. In addition, I would love to ask a favor of you. I am being very much encouraged, pushed almost, to offer some sort of a course. A course, and as I was being asked to ask you, what do you believe you need? What do you believe you need in your life right now in terms of information in order to help you become a more emotionally mature or stronger person? Mentally too, but emotionally speaking, what do you need? And then let me know in the comments down below, because it'll tell me, A, what you need, but it will also tell me where majority of people are sitting in terms of what information they're ready for. Because I can channel a lot of information, but if it's information that you're not open to, well, there's no point in giving you that information because you're never going to use it. So I want to make sure that I am bringing information that you can use in your life in practical ways in order to help you literally change your life. So what do you need? What information do you need? What course would you want to experience that will help you with exactly what you need? I would be very grateful for you sharing that information, and in a month or two or somewhere there, you'll likely see me posting or talking about a course that I am ready to put out there. And I want to make this available to as many people as possible, because at the end of the day, my job, if you will, is to help humanity. And this is my way of being part of that, doing my part. All right. So today's information is all about healing the inner child. And every single human, every single individual has an inner child within him or her. In my experience of doing basically therapeutic work in about 25 plus years, I would say that vast majority, I would say as far as 90% of all the people that I've worked with are, at least to some degree, disconnected from their inner child. And why is this a problem? Because it is mostly your inner child that is holding on to a whole bunch of information that then tells you how to see life and how to live your life. So in other words, your inner child is in big way responsible for your experiences. Now, just like you wouldn't want to give a 3-year-old a sharp knife, you don't necessarily want your inner child who is hurt and in pain to run your life, because, well, often it doesn't work out the way we want it to work out. So when we are in disconnection from our inner child, we couldn't possibly know what our inner child needs. Okay? Now, if your inner child is in big way responsible for your experiences, but it doesn't have his needs met, then its ability to create certain experiences is going to be lessened. Okay? Your experiences will not be as opulent as they could be, because your inner child is creating from a space of separation, from a space of lack, insecurity, and fear. And if we are not conscious of that, we will be, doing our life, not realizing that it's our wounded inner child that is basically responsible for being the driver in your car. You wouldn't want that. It doesn't mean it's good or bad. It's just a certain level of experience. So as humanity, we are trying to, at least on some level, move on to bigger and better in terms of our own human experiences. So a simple example, if we want to see more peace in the world doesn't just happen on its own. World is made up of many things, including humans. If we as humanity want to experience more peace, then that means that the non-peace is a reflection of what's happening inside of us. So if we want more peace, we need to be able to feel that peace within us. And an inner child that's hurt, neglected, feels abandoned, I guarantee you, has no peace. So what we want to do is we want to experience more peace by reconnecting with our inner child, so that we are no longer in as much of a separation and we are a lot more in unified space. Unity, right? So the 3 piles are going to talk about what your inner child needs, what is unmet, and we'll see what's going to happen, but probably how to go about what it is that's needing to be met. So let me just see if there's anything else here. Also, when we reconnect with our inner child, we also feel less afraid, because as an adult, you might not be afraid of something, but your inner child might be desperately afraid of something. If your inner child is afraid of quote unquote a relationship, then as an adult, you're going to try to limit your exposure to relationships because there is this hurt that's not being addressed. And we all have these hurts. I don't believe any one person goes without it or is devoid of it. We all have emotional hurt, emotional pain, and what we see in the world in terms of separation, fighting, wars is very much a reflection of what's happening within each and every individual. So the more we heal our inner child, the more we attend to our inner child's needs, the more we meet those needs from within, the less likely we are going to be reacting out of fear and out of pain. And that's ultimately, I believe, is what we all want. And I'm sure this is what you want. Okay, so the question for you is today, what does your inner child need right now or want? Okay, so let's go to 3 piles. Each pile will have certain messages for you, certain frequency. Allow your body to receive this information. Don't necessarily use your logical mind to digest this information. Learn to observe your body in terms of how it's reacting or responding to this information, because information is energy. So certain things you will resonate with and certain things you will not resonate with, and that's totally fine. Just because you're not resonating with something doesn't mean it's not true for you. You're just not at the space where you're able to see it, and that's perfectly normal and perfectly okay, and there's nothing wrong with that. So have an open mind, listen to your intuition, because at the end of the day, your own guidance system has guided you to be in this exchange of energy, because your higher self, your spirit, believes that this information has something to offer you, and there's always something valuable, whether you find it valuable or not, and how you put that value into your practical life, that's entirely up to you. Okay, so let's go through 3 piles. Whichever one feels whichever one you feel most drawn to, allow your intuition to guide you. You may listen to all 3 piles, and chances are there is nuggets and pieces in every pile for you to consider. So without further ado, let's move on through the piles. So pile number 1, when I was tuning in and I said, what does your inner child need? What's unmet? What I got was the word safe. So there is some unsafety feeling that your inner child is holding on to. In other words, your inner child does not feel safe, either in general or in a certain situation. You may not feel safe being in an intimate relationship, for example. You may not feel safe being part of a group. There's so many different ways that can show up, but the idea here is your inner child on some level doesn't feel safe. And I'm not talking about the kind of safety where you are being chased by a lion and you don't feel safe. Well, you shouldn't feel safe. You should run, because the bugger is going to probably chomp you for dinner or for lunch. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking, those are primal fears, and we need those fears in order to experience life. Otherwise, we would make stupid moves. But that's not what I'm talking about. Some of you may feel that it's unsafe to have a lot of money. It's a thing. So you will have your own unsafety thing showing up for you. And if what you are hearing here is kind of sort of resonating with you, but you're not sure, ask the universe to show you. And just be open to your experiences, because chances are whatever we talk about, it's either showing up in your life right now, or it's going to show up very, very, very promptly. Why? So that you can face it. Because the only way out of fear is through it. Okay, so my job is to help you face your fear. And by the way, I just love doing that. Absolutely love it. Okay, so what is being unmet in your case? Your root chakra, safety. Okay. So this is a primal fear for many of you. This is indicating your root chakra, which is all about pure, sheer survival, is needing to be addressed. So your inner child doesn't feel safe in terms of survivability. Okay, I'm trying to see if there's anything that can come through. For example, if you grew up in an environment where there was constant fighting and chaos, as a young child, you have likely learned that you are not safe to be provided for, that you cannot, your environment is not safe. That's a primal fear. Or, yeah, it's a primal, it's a fear. And when our primal needs are not being satisfied, our root chakra is going to feel very inflamed. What does that mean? It's going to have a lot of charge within it. What does that mean? It means that the energy that's stored in that area is going to be mostly responsible for how you live your life. So you will have a lot of survival fears. One of the survival fears is fears around money, because we connect money to survival. But it's beyond money. Money is just a concept. So what your inner child needs is you. What your inner child needs from you is you facing your fears around survivability. Okay, you are holding on to some old memory that is. One second, sorry, they're talking to me. Back up for a moment. Addressing your fears around survivability doesn't automatically mean that you are always going to feel 100% safe. It doesn't mean that. However, it does mean that you will, as a whole, feel relatively safe in this world. It's relative, right? If a building is on fire, I don't want you to feel safe. I want you to run. Because if you feel safe, you're going to stick around, and you're going to probably end up not being here anymore. So I'm not talking about that. Some of you, this is very interesting, are literally scared of being yourself because somehow that's tied to your survival. And a couple things. In past timelines, you being yourself was met with certain death. So you are likely carrying an energy from some old incarnation whereby you being yourself got you killed. Okay? In this lifetime, the way it was likely triggered in this life is when you were young, unless you did something your parent wanted you to do, you didn't feel love, because love, as a form of punishment, love or emotion was withdrawn from you. When a young child feels that he or she is not loved, that is literally like death to a child. That's like death. So obviously it's not a physical death, but it's almost like it's extremely scary. So you may have grown up in a family where you didn't feel loved. And that's, for most humans, a survival fear, believe it or not. If you don't feel loved, you're not going to feel safe, or the feeling of safety will be relatively lower. That if you were loved, your feelings of safety would be amplified. So many of you, pile number one, don't feel safe. You also don't feel safe being yourself. If I do this and I'm being myself, what if I'm going to be punished? What if I'm going to be ousted? Interesting word. What if I'm going to be rejected? Okay. Again, in old days, when we live in packs, and the survivability of one person was very much dependent on its pack. If that person was ousted from that pack, then this person's survivability rate would be relatively lower. So it is absolutely tied to survival. But we don't live in that reality anymore. But what we have we have memories from other lifetimes. And anytime we carry memories from other lifetime, we will likely live them out here, but something in this life has to trigger them into motion. So you may not be thinking that, if I become myself, I'm going to be killed. But you may think to yourself, if I show my true self, I'm not going to be loved. And to your inner child, that's equivalent of death. Okay. So root chakra is your primary concern right now. And of course, each chakra supports other chakras. So if you fundamentally don't feel safe in your body, there's no way you're going to express yourself to the fullest. It's just not going to happen. So your level of your own expression and living out to your potential very much is linked to how safe you feel being yourself. Okay. What's the energy? Community. Interesting, we talked about that, like a pack, and it shows up in reverse. So what this is showing me is the reversal only shows me that there's a problem there. Literally, this feels like you have some past cellular memory where you were rejected. So you might have felt like an outsider when you were growing up. You may have felt that you were different than other kids. You may have been made to feel that you were different, and because of that difference, somehow that wasn't a good thing. In other words, you were not celebrated for your differences. You were almost vilified in your perception for your differences. I don't know why they're giving me this example, but not that long ago, if an African American dark-skinned stepped onto a bus that was only for white people, their difference, their appearance would have been met with a lot of rejection. Okay, so maybe that's your ancestral wound. It can very well be, but this is just an example they're giving me in order to help you understand what I'm talking about. Okay, the idea of being excommunicated, rejected. Rejection, again, boils down to fear of survival. Again, think about being a young child and feeling rejected for showing feelings. There are many schools of thoughts out there, and many parents who punish their children for feeling angry, for example. Don't be angry, or I'm going to withdraw my energy from you, or I'm going to withdraw my emotion from you. Okay, so what the child is understanding is that it's not allowed to feel anger. Well, anger is a normal emotion. It belongs to all the other emotions. It's not good, it's not bad, it's an emotion. But if you were made to feel that it was not okay to feel angry, for example, or sad, and you had to put on a mask, then what you have learned as a result of that is that it's not safe to be you. Okay. Maybe you actually have some unresolved anger that you were not able to express. And that emotion is still very much living in your body. And even though your root chakra is what's being amplified here, it will affect your it'll affect all chakras, but it will affect your sacral chakra severely and your solar plexus and all the other ones too. So it'll affect your creativity, how you create your life from an expanded space versus very constricted space. And it will also affect how you express your individuality in the world. You are an individual. You and I are individual. We are unique. There's a beauty, a profound beauty in our uniqueness. We're not supposed to be like everybody else, but we try to fit ourselves into a certain box so that we can feel like we belong. You might have some fears around not belonging. And if you do have fears around not belonging, you will have a tendency to actually push people away. So if you are someone who emotionally pushes people away, ask yourself this question: how is me pushing other people away serving me? What do I get from that? The typical ego answer is nothing. All I will tell you is that that's impossible. You don't get nothing out of something. Okay? Your experience is something. So if you feel the need to emotionally withdraw or distance yourself from other people, then you have a really good reason for it. You want to understand that reason. Why do you want to understand that reason? Because until you understand the reason, you can't really effectively deal with the problem. Okay? You'll deal only with symptoms, but you're not going to deal with the problem that is the cause of your symptoms. Okay? Remember, you can't change the outside of you. You can only change how you see from within what the outside is presenting. In other words, to shift your reality in the outside world, you have to shift your reality in your inner world. And if you feel unsafe, then that is how you're going to show up in life. And that's what life will be presenting to you. It's not that life wants you to feel unsafe. You're just telling life, my reality, life is not safe. The universe is like, okay, I can support you in that because that's the only thing that I can do. Right? Illuminate the shadow. So this is what is missing right now for you. This is what needs to take place. You literally need to focus on solution by understanding the problem. And because this is showing up, it's telling me you haven't done that yet, but you are in a perfect position to do so. I don't want to face my fears. Okay, no problem. There's no right or wrong with that. It's just that if you don't want to face your fear, you're not going to move through it. You're not going to move past it. You're not going to allow yourself to be bigger than the fear you are holding on to. It's that simple. Is it easy? No. Is it simple? Yes. It's a very simple concept. It is not as easy in its application. Why? Because we have to get down and dirty and look into the wounds. And that's when inner child work comes into play. Shadow work, inner child work, those are all the things, systems that I work with, if I can use that analogy. It's very powerful. It's very potent. You have to be in the right space to commit to it wholeheartedly. And I believe you are in that space right now. You are in a space where you are being encouraged to no longer avoid your shadows and to stop focusing on the problem, which is the symptom, and instead look at the cause of the symptom. What is causing your symptom? If you're unhappy, what is causing this unhappiness? That's inner child work. Obviously, having a positive attitude is very important. Having a positive attitude is important. But just having a positive attitude on top of a negative belief system only goes so far, because your belief system, especially your unconscious belief system, almost always wins. It overrides your logic. Unless you actually see what's going on, you can make a much more sound choice or decision, and you can do it consciously. But unless you actually face your shadows, most of your decisions will be made unconsciously, and they will be made from the space of fear, which is something you don't want to do. Okay? So if you don't want to live in fear of not being loved, deal with the originating pattern that comes from experiences that made you believe that that it's not safe for you to, that you can't be loved, or that love is not available to you, or that there is no love there for you, or that you are unworthy of receiving love. Because then we have to deal with the issue of your unworthiness. I don't know if you've heard these videos before, but I talk about it often. The whole idea of worthiness or unworthiness of being loved, it's a man-made concept. It's impossible for you not to be loved by all that is. It's impossible. I know it doesn't feel like that sometimes. It certainly doesn't seem like that. Well, how can the universe be loving and look what's happening? Well, the universe is not responsible for our experiences. We are. The universe can only support what we believe to be true. And we all have these pesky critters that tells us, oh, I can't do this, I can't be that, I can't be loved, I'm too thin, I'm too thick, I'm too ugly, all that quote unquote nonsense, which I'm not putting it down, those are all beliefs. And those kinds of beliefs is what your inner child is holding on to. So for you, pile number one, it's all about safety and security, and primarily chakra number one, survival fears, not being loved. And of course, it'll affect sacral chakra and your ability to express yourself to the fullest. And you are here learning about yourself right now so that you can experience more of you. That's why you and I are talking right now, so that you can experience more of you, so that you can experience from discernment, from wisdom, more so than from fear. That's why you're here. You may not be conscious of asking these questions, but that's why you're here. What you want is more peace. That's what every human wants. Okay? So that's what I have for you, pile number one. Very important message. Let me know in the comments how that resonates with you, and what you need, perhaps, what information you need in order to help you deal with that. And I'll do my best and incorporate this in the course that I offer. All right? So that's what I have for you, pile number one. All right, pile number two, let's see what we have for you in terms of what your unmet needs are and what your inner child needs from you right now. Divine support coming up in reverse. All this is saying to me is that there's a challenge there. You, pile number two, is back up for a second. When I was shuffling the cards, I said, what is it that they need and what's unmet? And what I saw was exploring. Your inner child wants to explore. It wants to explore. You want to explore. There's probably a part of you that just wants to go out there and do something, perhaps something different, but you don't believe that you either have what it takes, or that there will be support there for you, or that the universe can actually support you in your desires. Okay? Remember, the universe only supports you, and it supports you based on what you believe. So again, back to square one. What does your inner child believe in terms of, in terms of being supported? And what I'm hearing is the word of inadequacy. So your inner child, pile number two, feels a sense of inadequacy. I'm not good enough. I'm not important enough. I'm not smart enough. And those are very lowering frequencies, which will absolutely create a lot of resistance in terms of you trying new things, because your inner child is going to be afraid of trying new things. And your soul wants to explore. I can see it. It's like it's right in front of my face. You're standing in this space looking at this vast world that's open and solid and beautiful, but you're afraid of making that first step. So ask yourself this question. If in fact you feel like there is something that wants to be explored by you, but you're afraid of making the step, ask yourself the question, what would I need in order to make the first step towards my exploration, towards my yearning, towards my desire? What's the first thing? What's the most important thing that I need in order to make that step? And just identify what that is. Perhaps one of the things that you need is trust yourself more. Okay. Well, if you don't trust yourself, because if you feel that you are somehow invalidated, or you have not been validated, if you don't trust yourself, then the first order is to learn how to trust yourself, which means there's a part of you that you're not trusting, but you're trusting. You trust. It's what you trust. If you trust in something you don't want, then you're still trusting, but it's not working out for you. If you trust that the world is going to reject you, then you are trusting in the experience of rejection. That is what you will work towards, not consciously, but unconsciously. Of course, you wouldn't want to be rejected. No one does. But if you believe that the world is going to reject you because you believe you're inadequate, you're going to be in this constant battle of fearing being rejected. Why do people reject things? Well, because they feel they're not important, they're somehow not good enough, they can do without, whatever. Your own level of value and self-importance, and I don't mean ego, I don't mean that at all. Your inner solidity has been compromised for a while. On top of it, some of you don't trust the universe to support you. Again, the universe supports you in everything that you do based on what you believe. So because the focus was on exploring, I have a feeling that whoever you are likely feeling fairly unsatisfied with life. And does that mean that we have to be satisfied 24/7? I think that would be ideal. I don't necessarily believe that that's the case 24/7, because we're meant to have ups and downs, and if we're always satisfied, then we're not feeling the desire to experience more. So certain level of dissatisfaction is not bad. What I'm talking about is this constant, continual feeling of you're not satisfied with life, you're not satisfied with yourself. That's a whole different animal. So you might want to ask yourself this question: if I don't feel satisfied right now, what would make me feel satisfied? Okay, what would make you feel satisfied? What could you possibly do to help you feel more satisfied? Because I can't make you feel satisfied. I can't say, here's $5 worth of satisfaction. If it doesn't come from you, whatever I share with you, give you, it's going to be temporary. You have to own it, right? So exploring new horizon is a big theme for you, or new horizons, and knowing that energetically you are supported in this. Doesn't mean you make dumb moves. Doesn't mean you make inconsiderate moves. It doesn't mean that you are careless. It just means that you are stepping out into the unknown, having your head on your shoulders, having emotional maturity, and trusting that you're going to do your best and the universe is going to support you. The universe has no other option but to support you. Okay? Cultural ideals. This is all about programming. Okay? You have been programmed to feel a certain way about you and what you have. For example, give me an example, please. If I have a lot of money, dumb example, but if I have a lot of money, it makes me a good person. It doesn't make you anything. It just makes you a person with a lot of money. Okay? Or if I have this, then I'm happy. If I accomplish this, then I'm supposed to be satisfied. No, you're satisfied when you're satisfied, and it comes in different ways. But so it's about your programming in terms of what you're supposed to do in order to be happy. Everybody's happiness has a different expression. What makes me happy may make you absolutely miserable. So who am I to say to you, this is what's going to make you happy? All I can do is share my experience and say, hey, this is how I gain mine happiness. Try it. If it doesn't work, try something different. So this is about you coming out of your own confinement, and this is the emotional maturity whereby you are beginning to you are beginning to clearly see your old programming. And we're all programmed from the moment we are born, even before then. But a lot of our programming, a bulk of our programming happens in our formative year, first 7 to 8 years, right? So anything that you've experienced in your life in terms of conditions and how life is and relationship was formed within the first 7 or 8 years, right? Something that may be something that may be valuable to you may be completely worthless to somebody on the other side of this globe, right? So it's all about programming, and don't get me wrong, not all programming is bad. In fact, this is nothing to do with good or bad. This is about, does your limited programming give you what you want? It's programming, so it's given you something, but perhaps you've outgrown it. In fact, I know you have outgrown it. We are all outgrowing our old programming. That's what makes this experiences so beautiful right now. We are beginning to recognize our old programming, number one, how our programming can act in a positive or negative way in terms of how we benefit from it. I mean, we always benefit. And number three, it's understanding the purpose of programming. If you didn't have any programming, life would make no sense to you. You have to make sense out of life. That's what you're here. You're here to have an experience and make things make sense to you. Imagine waking up tomorrow morning and nothing made sense. It's very confusing. So not all programming is bad. Again, it's not about good or bad. It's about, how does your old programming affect you in negative ways in terms of becoming more of yourself, trying something new, trying something that your ancestors perhaps would never try because they would be afraid because it's too much out of the box thinking. So pile number 2. We're all in boxes, by the way, so don't feel bad. Your box, your thinking box, is too small for you. It's becoming too small for you. Your soul wants to express more expanded version of life through you. Okay, you are the expression of. Okay, you might want to ask yourself the question: what would I choose to express into my life if I had the chance, if I had the choice? You have the choice. Now, if you say, I want to express myself by having wings and flying, I'm going to say, well, you have to wait for a different experience in a different form because you're here to be a human being and these generally don't have wings. So I would say put that on the back burner. Okay, but this is obviously said to you with humor so that we get the picture. Okay. There are more things that you want for your life, but you're afraid of stepping out of your comfortable situation or out of your confinement and making the steps towards reaching that goal. I'm not saying don't be afraid. It's okay to be afraid. If there is something you want to try and you've never tried it before, naturally you're going to have some apprehension. I'm not asking you to have no apprehension. I'm saying, look at the apprehension. What is it about? Is it simply because it's the unknown? Well, the only way you'll know is when you go through the experience. Is it because you believe that you're going to fail? Well, then we have to look at your idea of failure. Okay? You will only fail if you keep having the same experiences and you refuse to learn from it. The moment you learn from an experience, it becomes something extraordinarily valuable that you can take to the bank. No one can take experience away from you. Experience often leads to wisdom. You cannot have wisdom without experience. You can have knowledge, but if knowledge is not experienced, you won't have wisdom. That's just the way it is. Okay? So make sure you're making wise choices going forward, ones that are not driven by fears of failure. Okay? I always say to my clients, when they say, well, I'm afraid I'm going to fail, I'm saying, listen, look at your life. You've gone thus far. You know how to feed yourself. You know how to put clothing on your back. You know how to pay your bills. Like you know what you're doing, right? I guarantee you pretty much that if you knew you're about to make a dumb move that's going to fail, then you're not going to do it. Simple. Give yourself a pat on the back for knowing that you're not a dumb person. it's very unlikely for you to practice something you know damn well is going to fail. It's not going to happen. Most people don't do that. However, even if you do choose that, which by the way is perfectly okay, learn from it. If you're choosing an experience, learn from it. Perhaps you're choosing an experience knowing you're going to fail because you need a reminder. Oh, okay, it failed. Well, how many reminders do you need? 1 more, 3 more, 10 more? You decide. Okay? What's needed? Soul fragments. Balance will be restored. Okay? Notice how the mind, the head is on fire. Your understanding of yourself is going through a lot of transformation right now. Okay? In a process of that, you are experiencing a certain level of healing in your heart. Understanding leads to wisdom. Wisdom leads to higher level of experiences. So your own inner mental transformation is paving a way for new experiences. And as you're going through this process of mental transformation, it's going to feel sometimes like it sucks because you are literally being reprogrammed, speaking of programming, okay? So you are in essence being encouraged to reprogram your own mind. How do you reprogram your own mind? By first understanding what the program in your mind is. What is your programming? If you're looking at experiencing something more, what's your programming around that? Is it good? Is it bad? Is it scary? Is it, I am not supposed... Look at your own programming. Make your programming visible to you. And most of our programming, and I would say as far as 95%, is hidden under the unconscious. So this is going to, but life is, if you want to know what your programming you have and you don't know what I'm talking about, say, hey, life, universe, show me a situation where my programming is going to be revealed. And then be open to seeing what wants to be revealed. Okay? Because you are in an exchange of energy right now that is assisting you and supporting you to have these things revealed. You are asking for information to help you in your path. This information is being given to you. And then it's now all about application. Okay? If you don't know what you're dealing with, you're not going to be able to apply it. So ask the universe to show you, hey, universe, what limited beliefs am I dealing with? What is my programming that I am unconsciously aware of, that is unconscious? And then look what happens. Perhaps you get a bill in the mail, like you've gotten them many times before, but for the first time in your life, you notice this frequency. I made that sound for a reason. It was very sharp because it's how I used to react to bills. That trigger reaction was a sure sign of something around money. So you might have an unconscious fears around money. Perhaps you have a fear of not having enough. Pretty standard fear. But you must have a program that says there is not enough money in the world. There's plenty of money in the world. Money is everywhere. Why don't you have it? Why don't I have it? Because of our belief systems. Okay, so I had huge issues around money that was tied to my own value system, which often is. And then it took me some time to reprogram my mind, to transform my thinking, my programming, so that I can start being open to attracting more abundance on all ways, not just money. But this is showing up for you, pile number 2. Okay. Safety and security often is tied to money because we think of safety and security as money. And yes, money provides, absolutely. But if we have fears around not having money, we will also have fears around unsafety and not feeling secure. So safety and secure, money, all of that is kind of combined together. Okay. So that's what I have for you, pile number 2. Very powerful. All right, pile number 3. Let's see what we have for you. Have I told you how this work makes me so excited? I'm actually a little bit sheepish about it. It just brings me so much joy and excitement to just open things up and help you see things. It's just like, oh, every time I have a session with a client, it's like, I can't wait to get into it. It's just so powerful and so beautiful. Oh, by the way, I often get asked if I offer private sessions. I still do. Don't know for how long, but I still do. So if you're interested in helping me, if you're interested in me helping you trying to figure out your life, or for that matter, your inner child's needs, you can just connect with me. That information is down below, and me and my team would be thrilled, tickled pink, to assist you in that. Okay, what does your inner child need? Pile number 3, energetic movement. So you likely have a bit of chaos going on in your life right now. This inner chaos, it's almost like an expression of what's happening inside of you. You are likely going through some dramatic changes and shifts right now. Okay, think of it this way. Imagine you have a house and you decide to rebuild your house from inside out. So you tear everything except the bare bones and you're going to rebuild. That's a mess. Ugh. All the dirt and you don't know where anything is. You're confused. When will this end? Oh my God, why such chaos? I don't want to deal with this. Those are the sort of energies that I feel you might be in right now, or you might be entering. Okay. Now, the message that came for you when I was shuffling the cards was, what's unmet is the willingness to take the first step towards a chosen future. So it's similar to pile 2, but not exactly the same. Willingness, the word is willingness. Be willing to take a chance on yourself. Be willing to take a chance on a project. Be willing to take a chance on a new path. And the words be willing are the most important words that I want to share, that wants to come through me. Be willing. In other words, will things to happen. Do something about it. Oftentimes, in order to go from experience A to experience B, we have to go through a transition. If we want a vastly different experience than what we have been experiencing, we have to go through a transition. Why? Because our current experience is the result of what's happening energetically within us. And that is then expressed to the outside, and we have our experiences. If you're wanting a vastly different experience, then you must shift your frequency from inside out, which is this energetic movement, to shuffle things around, to move things around, if you will, to tear down and rebuild again from scratch anew so that you can have a new experience. So pile number 3, you are likely either going through some form of transition right now, or you will be very shortly going through a transition. I want to say it's like your body's on the move, your body wants to move, but your mind wants to stay. So you are at conflict. There's a part of you that wants to move forward, and there's a part of you that wants to stay where it is. The part of you that wants to stay where it is afraid of whatever it is that you want not happening. So pile number 3, I feel like what's lacking is your belief in yourself. So your inner child, since we're talking about inner child, your little girl, little boy, doesn't trust himself, herself, which really means it doesn't trust you. You don't trust your inner child. That's where the disconnect is. You don't want to have that disconnection. Think of it this way. Your inner child is capable of so many things. Have you ever seen kids, 3, 4 years old? They just want to play. Show me the way. Let me have an experience. They're not attached to anything. They're just full of awe and experience. It's just all about experiences. You don't have a 3-year-old drafting up an agenda. It's not what it's about. So your inner child is a powerful, powerful magician. It helps you create your life. If it doesn't trust itself because it's learned not to trust itself, then its ability to express fully is going to be minimized. And you as an adult will experience that. You will hold yourself back. There is no two questions about it. So pile number 3, ask yourself this question: how am I holding myself back? If in fact you're holding yourself back. And if you're a human being, on some level, you're holding yourself back. Some people hold themselves back a lot. Some hold themselves a little bit. I mean, I used to hold myself a lot. It's like it was crazy. Now I still hold myself back. There's still a residue of stuff, but I'm way better than I was. I don't want to get rid of that part of me. It is part of my experience, but it's no longer driving my experience for the most part. It still comes in once in a while and starts to talk to me. No, Joanna, don't do this. It's too risky. People are going to look at you like you're growing horns. But there's a bigger part of me that says, okay, let them think what they want. It's their experience. Who am I to dictate their experience? I know I'm not growing horns. I am who I am. Pile number 3, how do you hold yourself back from your own expression? Because your soul naturally wants to express itself. Your inner child wants to express itself. It's afraid to. The question is why? What is the result, or what is the possible end result of expressing yourself to the fullest? What is the possible negative of expressing yourself to the fullest? What is the fear associated with you expressing yourself to the fullest? Okay, I feel like pile number 3 is almost a combination of 1 and 2, but it's just coming through a little bit differently. So the energy is going to register slightly differently in your body. What is needed right now in order for you to give yourself permission to express yourself more fully? If you're holding yourself back all the time, or if you've held yourself back for most of your life, I'm not going to tell you, hey, express yourself fully now. It's not going to happen. It has to be in increments. It has to be through baby steps. That's why it's important for you to be willing to take first step in whatever it is that you want to experience more of. Example, because many people will resonate with this. Do you want to be a practicing healer? Okay. Maybe first thing you need to do is acknowledge that you possess healing ability. Without that, there's no start. We don't have a start. Okay? So this is about assessing and reassessing your own ideas about who you are, what your purpose is, who you're supposed to be, who you're not supposed to be. And then look at all those programming, look at all those limiting programming, and ask yourself, are these programmings standing in my way of being me? Or are they encouraging me to be more of me? Because you and I are talking about this, I can pretty much guarantee you they're standing in a way. So what's standing in the way? It's you. You are standing in your own way. Generally, that's what it is. Generally, we stand in our own way. Can somebody stand in our own way? Sure, but for the most part, we stand in our own way. You want to ask yourself the question, how? And you will have the answer to that question by connecting with your inner child. The moment you connect with your inner child and acknowledge what's being held back, you'll see what the problem is. And not only that, you will help to understand what is needed in order for it to be no problem again, or not a problem, or no longer a problem. Okay? Stubbornness. Okay. Are you stubborn? Are you too stubborn for your own good? Sometimes stubbornness is necessary, and it's actually very productive. If you want to achieve something, I'm going to be stubborn, I'm going to get it. However, if you are stuck on something and it's not really giving you what you want, being stubborn about it, I'm afraid is not going to help you. You have to be open to other possibilities. But stubbornness can often act as a protection. Okay, I'm stubborn because I want to stay here. But really why I want to stay here is because here where I feel safe. Here is where I feel safe. Oh yeah, really? Really? Do you really feel safe? Do you really feel happy? Or is it because it's convenient? Nothing wrong with that. Convenience is good. Look at all the conveniences we're having. We can rely on them. They're good. But when too much convenience becomes a habit and the habit becomes something that restricts you, then it's no longer a convenience, is it? It's now an inconvenience. Okay. So what you might want to look at pile number 3, and it's interesting because this being is holding what I would call an inner child. Connecting with your inner child and asking the question, or seeing if there's some stubbornness there, like there's really, so I'm hearing stubbornness and risk. You are stubborn about either taking a risk, not taking a risk. And by the way, I'm not saying take stupid risks. I'll be the first one to tell you don't do that. But it's like you're stuck on something and you're not willing to compromise. You don't have to. But perhaps if you don't, you're not going to have a new experience. Okay? Remember, connecting with the inner child is all about helping you to let go of what's no longer needed. And your inner child will tell you what that is. Secret temptation. What I'm hearing here is don't hold back. Interesting. It's very similar to pile number 1. Very, very similar. I mean, it's almost like very similar. Okay. Your mind has a way of deceiving you. We all do. Okay. Go beyond your rigid thinking. Why is it rigid? Because it's not flexible. If you are rigid and a strong wind blows by, you're actually vulnerable. Okay? On the other hand, when you're flexible and wind blows by, you're going to accommodate the wind, and at the end of the day, the wind moves on and you're still strong, you're flexible. So there is a certain level of rigidity you hold within yourself about yourself and how things are supposed to look. That's programming. The question is, does it serve you? Does it allow you to have a greater experience? Do you like what you see? Do you like what you experience? If the answer is no, okay, let's look at your rigid thinking. Okay. And by the way, when I say rigid or rigid thinking, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm not saying it's good. It's from where I come from, this perspective right now, there is no good and bad. The question is it helping you be more of yourself? Is it helping you to move towards a chosen destiny? Is it helping you to become, let's say, much more emotionally independent when you are not so dependent on other people? That doesn't mean that you shouldn't depend on other people. We all do. The most independent person does not do life by himself or herself. That's impossible. Nature supports it. Other people support it. If you buy gas, that's other people working to produce gas, and that gas goes on your car and you drive the car. That's support. We are all supported. You're not an lonely island. The type of support I'm talking about is where you give your power or control away to outside support, and you basically give yourself away. That's not support. That's called a crutch. When we have a crutch, when we rely on a crutch, it means we're not stable. We're not solid. Pile number 3. Where do you feel not stable or not solid? Okay. Where is that? Okay. Is it confidence? Is it self-assurance? Is it your self-worth? Is it your sense of value? Where do you not feel sense of solidity? Because what's going to happen right now, the moment you say to the universe, hey, universe, show me my programming that's no longer working for me, the universe is going to put it in your face. to help you look at it and to face it. Okay? And like I said, you can, and when the universe puts things in front of your face, it's going to trigger certain things. And that trigger, when you look at it as a trigger, emotional trigger, which is basically a whole bunch of stories, you look at the story, you go, oh my God, my story is that I was told at a very young age that I'm not good enough and I'm not going to amount to anything. Boom, there goes a belief system. Is it true? Just because someone told you that, and that was their projection, usually their anger on you, they have no idea what you're capable of. They barely know what they're capable of. How can they tell you what you're capable of? Can they decide for you? If you let them. So what this is saying is that at some point long time ago, you made a decision that you were not capable. Not because you weren't capable, but because you received the message that you were not capable. And you believed it. And now that becomes your rigid thinking. That's your mind lying to you. You're absolutely capable. Look where you're at. You're an adult. You take care of yourself. You probably go to work. You probably have somewhat of relationships, at least. You're very capable. To the degree to which you can become more expressive and see your capabilities, that all depends on the structure of your thinking. Okay? And remember, you are going through some energetic shifts. And these shifts are going to magnify your rigid thinking, your stubbornness, perhaps. Okay? There is no point being stuck on an idea that makes you stuck. There's no point being stuck on an idea that makes you a prisoner. That makes no sense. Why would you want to be stuck on an idea that makes you feel like a prisoner? Get out of it. Don't know how? That's the inner work. That's exactly it. This is what you need right now. What you need is to look at all the resistance that's happening within you, at all the mind games your mind, your ego plays on you, and realize that those are all stories. They belong to you, right? They're your stories. They belong to you. You are the director of your stories. You can create new stories. If you keep hanging on to old, limiting stories, that's the story you're going to keep creating over and over again. The script doesn't change. The experience doesn't change. So you have to look at your own inner scripts. You have a lot of critical thinker is beautiful. It's not that you have a lot of self-criticism around you, in you. We all do, but this is being amplified for you, pound number 3. Critical thinking is good. You need that. You don't want to be emotionally based only person who makes decisions out of pure instinct all the time, or fear or emotion. You want to make sound choices and sound decisions. An ego that's afraid or an inner child that's terrified is not going to help you make sound decisions and sound choices. It's going to make you feel afraid. And my job is to help you feel less afraid. I can't make you be less afraid. I can only point to your fear and help you face your fear so that you can move through it and realize, wow, it was the fear I was afraid of. But now that I'm through it, I have a different outlook on life. And that's when your life changes. That's literally when your life changes. When you begin to see differently from within and you begin to express that vision to the outside, that's when your experiences changes. Okay, so that's what I have, pile number 3. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for sharing. Again, ask yourself, what course would you want to have in order to help you in whatever you're at? What information do you feel you need in order to help you move forward based on what you heard? And you'll be if you signed up to Joanna the Healer, my newsletter, you will receive information. Otherwise, I'll probably be just mentioning it on YouTube here and there, but it always goes to my subscribers first. So if you haven't subscribed yet to my newsletter, and you'll get some goodies like free meditations and things like that. And I send newsletters maybe once every 3 months. I should do it actually more often, but I don't like being bombarded by newsletters, so I don't want to do that to you. So whenever I have a newsletter that's coming out, you can bet that there's something substantial there, because otherwise I just don't do it. With that said, have yourself a fabulous weekend, or whenever you watch this. Make sure you comment, like, subscribe, and you share with me your experiences, and you share with me your desires, what you need from me, how I can support you, how me and my team can support you. And in turn, I thank you wholeheartedly for my support, for your support. Thank you so much for being here, and take care.